Dealers across America are quietly dumping Harleys, slashing prices on bikes that once defined freedom. If you own one, your resale value could be falling right now. This isn't rumor. It's written on clearance tags from coast to coast. By the end of this countdown, you'll know which models are sinking fastest, why it's happening, and which one still holds its pride. Stay till the end, because the number one name on this list will shock even lifelong Harley loyalists. Number 7. Harley-Davidson Street 750. For a brand built on thunder and steel, this machine arrived with a whisper. It was meant to open Harley's doors to a new generation, to give young riders and city commuters an easy first step into the world of Milwaukee iron. On paper, it looked like progress. Compact, affordable, and approachable. In reality, it marked the first crack in the armor for a company long defined by muscle and pride. The Street 750 promised to bring Harley heritage into the modern age. Instead, it reminded loyalists how fragile that heritage could be when stripped down too far. The math made sense, but emotion doesn't run on spreadsheets. For many seasoned riders, the Street 750 felt foreign. Built to court younger crowds and international markets, it lacked the thick chrome, deep paint, and heavy rumble that defined the Harley sound. Its exhaust note was tight and subdued, more hum than growl. The controls were feather-light, and the clutch almost polite. To a veteran rider used to the heartbeat of a big twin, it was like shaking hands without a grip. For newcomers, it was friendly enough, but friendliness was never what built Harley's legend. Harley meant intimidation, presence, weight, the kind of motorcycle you felt even before turning the key. Yet within the frustration lay a warning that echoed far beyond this model. When a company built on pride starts chasing practicality, something gets lost. The Street 750 did not fail because it was bad. It failed because it was unsure. Too light for legacy, too mild for rebellion, and too expensive to feel disposable. Today, dealerships clear remaining stock quietly, discounting them to move floor space. Some buyers still find charm in its simplicity, but for most, it serves as a reminder. Harley-Davidson isn't just about getting from here to there. It's about what happens between the two. The numbers told one story. The feel told another. The engine delivered 57 horsepower from 749 cubic centimeters, pushing 43 pound-feet of torque through a smooth 6-speed gearbox. Braking came by way of single discs front and rear with an anti-lock braking system for safety. The suspension setup used a 37mm front fork and dual rear shocks, tuned for city streets rather than open highways. Wet weight sat at 514 pounds. Manageable for beginners, but light for traditional Harley taste. Seat height rested at 25.7 inches, low and welcoming. When it first rolled off the line, the starting price stood at $7,599, making it one of the least expensive bikes to wear the bar and shield. The Street 750 was a promise to the future that the past never signed. And for riders who still judge a bike by the weight in its idle and the pride in its chrome, that's all the reason it stands here. At number 7 on this list of machines dealers are desperate to move. Number 6. Harley-Davidson Street 500. When a brand built on thunder tries to whisper, something sacred gets lost in translation. The Street 500 arrived as Harley's smallest modern motorcycle, a gateway for beginners and city riders who wanted the logo without the intimidation. It was meant to open the door to new generations and new markets, carrying the legend into places where big twins felt too heavy or too loud. But for many longtime riders, it felt like an echo instead of a roar. Harley-Davidson had always stood for strength, torque, and presence. The Street 500 asked those same riders to embrace restraint, and that was never part of the Harley creed. For riders comparing spreadsheets, the numbers looked inviting, but for those who measure motorcycles by sound, stance, and steel, the feeling was off from the first startup. The Street 500 idled with a hum, not a heartbeat. The exhaust note lacked the pulse that turned heads at intersections. The finish felt more commuter than cruiser, with basic paint and minimal chrome. The strip design served a purpose, keep costs down. But in doing so, it stripped away part of the soul. Harley's essence isn't found in affordability. It's in attitude. This machine had efficiency instead. Dealers quickly discovered the limits of practicality. Rows of unsold models collected dust beside chrome giants that drew the real attention. The profit margins thinned. Discounts grew. For every beginner who walked in ready to buy, 2 veterans walked out shaking their heads. This was not the Harley they remembered, nor the one they wanted to represent. Pride, after all, is not built on entry-level comfort. It's built on commanding respect from the saddle. Under the tank sat a liquid-cooled Revolution X engine that produced 33 horsepower from 494 cubic centimeters. Torque measured 29.5 pound-feet, delivered through a 6-speed transmission. Braking used single discs front and rear with an anti-lock braking system to keep things steady. Suspension came from a telescopic fork in the front and dual coilover shocks in the rear. Wet weight registered at 514 pounds, giving the bike a solid footprint for new riders without overwhelming them. Seat height stood at 25.7 inches, low, easy to mount, and designed for confidence at stoplights. The original starting price was $6,899, making it the most affordable Harley in decades. In hindsight, the Street 500 feels like a noble experiment, an honest attempt to bridge generations. But Harley's heart was never built for compromise. Riders who value torque, noise, and presence see motorcycles as statements, not stepping stones. The Street 500 tried to simplify that statement, and in doing so, softened its edge. Today, dealers still trim prices, eager to make room for the heavyweights that define the brand. The lesson endures: smaller may sell on paper, but the road still belongs to machines that rumble, not whisper. If this breakdown hits close to home, hit that like button and drop a comment. Tell us which Harley deserves redemption. Number 5. Harley-Davidson Street Rod 750. Every brand has a moment when it tries to prove it can still surprise people. For Harley-Davidson, that moment came with the Street Rod 750, a bold attempt to show that power and youth could share the same gas tank. It was supposed to be a sportier, meaner sibling to the smaller street models, one that could pull younger riders into the fold without alienating the veterans. On paper, it had the right ingredients: more horsepower, better suspension, sharper handling. But when the rubber met the road, it delivered mixed signals. Half muscle, half misunderstanding. The idea was sound. The execution revealed just how difficult it is to balance rebellion and refinement under one badge. Those numbers painted a promising picture, yet the reality was more complicated. The bike felt quick and willing, but the riding position told another story. The aggressive foot-peg placement folded riders into an awkward crouch, pushing knees high and elbows wide. It looked fierce standing still, but after 30 miles, the strain spoke louder than the exhaust. The handlebar angle added to the discomfort, putting pressure on the wrists and lower back. Riders used to long stretches on a Softail or Dyna felt confined rather than free. It wanted to be both cruiser and sport bike, and in doing so, never fully became either. Dealerships learned that lesson quickly. The Street Rod attracted test rides but few signatures. Its narrow appeal left it stranded between audiences, too athletic for loyalists, too heavy for sport riders. Discounts followed, and soon the model found itself sharing floor space with better-selling cruisers that spoke the old language of torque and authority. For all its improvements, it couldn't escape its origins as an experiment in identity. Beneath its narrow tank, the Street Rod carried a reworked version of the Revolution X engine, delivering 70 horsepower from 749 cubic centimeters and 47.9 pound-feet of torque. That output marked a noticeable jump from its softer sibling, promising quick response and a livelier throttle. Braking came through dual front discs and a single rear disc with an anti-lock braking system for added confidence. The suspension received a real upgrade, a 43mm inverted front fork and dual gas-charged rear shocks, both tuned to add bite to the corners. Wet weight stood at 525 pounds, giving it a compact feel while keeping the stability riders expect from the brand. Seat height measured 29.8 inches, higher than most Harley models, but intentional to match its sportier stance. The original starting price was $8,699, positioning it between beginner-friendly affordability and mid-range commitment. Today, the Street Rod 750 stands as a snapshot of Harley's growing pains, a motorcycle that tried to stretch tradition without breaking it, but lost its footing along the way. It wasn't a bad machine, it was a confused one, torn between the past it respected and the future it chased. Riders who owned it found moments of joy in its agility and tone, yet most eventually traded up to something that felt unmistakably Harley. For the brand's core audience, men who measure value not in gadgets but in feel, it became another reminder that innovation only works when it still sounds like freedom. Before we roll on, gear up right. I've linked solid, road-tested helmets, gloves, and accessories in the description. Stuff built to last longer than a clearance sale. Hit those links, then let's keep moving. Number 4. Harley-Davidson FXDR 114. There are motorcycles that speak softly and those that thunder. The FXDR 114 was built to thunder. It was Harley-Davidson's attempt to blend drag strip aggression with cruiser confidence, a machine that looked like it wanted to fight the wind and win. It arrived bold, sculpted, and unapologetically modern, designed to prove that heritage could still sprint with the times. But behind its power and presence, the FXDR carried a burden, expectations that were impossible to meet. It wanted to be performance incarnate, yet it forgot that true performance on a Harley isn't measured by seconds or specs. It's measured by how it feels to live with every mile. It looked like a weapon, a stretched, low-slung silhouette with a massive rear tire, sculpted air intakes, and minimal bodywork. Every inch declared power and speed. Riders who parked it at rallies drew stares. But as soon as the ride began, the reality emerged. The forward foot controls stretched the rider's legs long, and the low drag-style handlebar forced the back into a crouch. On paper, the posture meant performance. On pavement, it meant pain. A 30-minute cruise could leave wrists tingling and shoulders tight. The FXDR demanded a rider's endurance before it offered any comfort. Dealers hoped its radical design would attract new energy to showrooms. At first, it did. Curiosity pulled in crowds. But curiosity doesn't always sell motorcycles. Once riders compared comfort and versatility, they turned toward the more balanced Softail lineup. The Lowrider S, the Fat Bob, the Breakout, all offered the same torque, better comfort, and truer Harley soul. The FXDR, despite its intentions, felt like a rebel without roots. Its futuristic styling alienated traditionalists, and its limitations frustrated thrill seekers. Within a short time, inventories piled up. Discounts appeared. Dealers quietly began moving them out at reduced prices just to clear floors for models that could hold loyalty. Even Harley itself read the writing on the wall and discontinued the FXDR after a short production run. For a brand that built its reputation on timeless designs, the bike's sharp lines and synthetic feel made it age faster than chrome ever could. The foundation was pure muscle. Its Milwaukee 8 114 engine produced 90 horsepower from 1,868 cubic centimeters and 119 pound-feet of torque, breathing through a heavy-breathing intake and a 2-into-1 exhaust system. Braking came from dual front discs with 4 piston calipers, joined by a single rear disc and a cornering anti-lock braking system to keep control firm. Suspension used a 43mm inverted front fork, paired with a coil-over rear monoshock that adjusted for preload. Wet weight measured 668 pounds, making it lighter than many of Harley's other power cruisers, while still holding the road with authority. Seat height stood at 27.7 inches, low enough to feel planted, yet high enough to keep control through the lean. The starting price came in at $18,999, positioning it squarely in the high-performance cruiser segment. Still, There's something admirable about the FXDR. It carried ambition, Harley's proof that they could build a modern power cruiser with aggressive intent. For some riders, it's a collectible symbol of a time when the company tried to evolve beyond nostalgia. For others, it's a reminder that innovation without comfort never lasts. When you swing a leg over a Harley, you expect torque that moves both bike and soul. The FXDR delivered the first, but never mastered the second. It stands now as a lesson wrapped in aluminum and attitude, a fierce vision that burned bright, fast, and brief, now sitting on showroom floors, waiting for a second chance to roar. Number 3. Harley-Davidson V-Rod Muscle. There are bikes that honor the past and bikes that try to rewrite it. The V-Rod Muscle stood in that uncertain middle ground, a bold experiment wrapped in aluminum and ambition. It was Harley-Davidson's attempt to merge American attitude with European engineering precision, born from a partnership with Porsche that promised performance unlike anything wearing the bar and shield before. It was supposed to redefine what a power cruiser could be, fast, refined, and fearsome. And it was. But it was also a reminder that not every legend can be modernized without losing part of its soul. From the first throttle twist, this was no ordinary Harley. It revved higher, faster, smoother, surging with sport bike precision instead of cruiser pulse. Liquid cooling kept temperatures steady, while the frame and swing arm carved corners with firmness rare for Harley. Powerful, yet detached, its higher-pitched tone lacked the deep rhythm riders loved. It pulled like thunder, but spoke with the wrong voice, strong, fast, and strangely unfamiliar. For all its engineering brilliance, the V-Rod Muscle struggled to find a home. Harley fans wanted nostalgia, not experimentation, and sport riders already had faster, lighter options. Dealerships kept them polished on the floor, but few left the lot. Over time, discounts crept in, and the once premium price tag softened to make room for bikes that truly fit the brand's core identity. When production finally ended, the model left behind an unusual legacy, a motorcycle that proved Harley could build high-tech performance, but also that performance alone doesn't make a Harley. The heart of this machine was a Revolution engine producing 123 horsepower from 1,247 cubic centimeters, delivering 84 pound-feet of torque with an eagerness that startled longtime Harley loyalists. Braking came from dual 4-piston calipers in the front and a 4-piston rear, supported by an anti-lock braking system for stability under load. Suspension used a stout inverted fork up front and twin coilover shocks at the rear. Wet weight tipped the scales at 673 pounds, anchored low to maintain balance during hard acceleration. Seat height sat at 25.6 inches, low, confident, and aggressive. The starting price was $17,849, putting it in direct competition with bikes that defined raw performance rather than heritage. Even today, when one passes by, it turns heads. Its lines are still fierce, its acceleration still instant, but there's a reason it remains more admired than adopted. The V-Rod Muscle was a masterclass in engineering and a misstep in emotion. For riders who measure power by feel and not by figures, it was fast, but hollow. And in the Harley world, no amount of horsepower can fill the silence left when the heartbeat is gone. If you live and breathe Harley pride, subscribe now. More deep dives, market truths, and real rider stories are on the way. Number 2. Harley-Davidson Pan America 1250 Special. There are moments when a brand decides to step outside everything it knows to test whether legacy can evolve without losing its foundation. The Pan America 1250 Special was that moment for Harley-Davidson, a leap into the unpredictable world of adventure touring, where dirt replaces asphalt and heritage meets innovation. It wasn't built for the boulevard or the rally lot. It was designed to climb mountains, cross deserts, and chase horizons that cruisers rarely touch. It carried Harley's badge into territory long ruled by European engineering. For a company defined by chrome and thunder, it was a daring move. But boldness alone doesn't guarantee belonging, and the Pan America's journey from showroom to trail has been as rugged as the terrain it was built to conquer. Those numbers spoke of progress, and they were. The Pan America proved Harley could merge technology with durability. It accelerated hard, braked strong, and handled with agility foreign to cruisers. On rough roads, the engine pulled steady and clean, yet it lacked soul. The Revolution Max offered precision without pulse, powerful, efficient, and cold. For riders raised on the Milwaukee 8's heartbeat, it felt like heritage without warmth. Still, for the few who gave it a chance, the Pan America delivered something rare: freedom without boundaries. It could carve switchbacks at sunrise and devour interstate miles by noon. The adaptive ride height turned hesitation into confidence, especially for shorter riders who once avoided tall adventure machines. On dirt and gravel, it felt capable, steady, and ready for more. Yet when parked beside a road glide or a fat boy, it looked like it came from another world entirely. Dealers soon found themselves holding onto inventory longer than expected. The buzz cooled, discounts arrived, and price tags softened. The market wasn't rejecting the bike's ability. It was wrestling with its identity. Harley had built a great motorcycle. It just wasn't a great Harley in the traditional sense. And that, for many loyalists, was the dividing line. At its core sat a Revolution Max engine that produced 150 horsepower from 1,252 cubic centimeters and 94 pound-feet of torque. It was a liquid-cooled, dual overhead cam design that spun higher and faster than any traditional Harley power plant. Braking was handled by dual radial-mounted Brembo calipers in the front and a single Brembo rear, all supported by a cornering anti-lock braking system. Suspension came from a fully adjustable semi-active setup with Showa components that could adapt on the fly, including an innovative adaptive ride height system that automatically lowered the seat when stopped. Wet weight measured 542 pounds, surprisingly light for its size and class. Seat height, when lowered, sat at 29.4 inches, making it approachable for a wide range of riders. The starting price was $19,999, placing it in direct competition with established giants from BMW, KTM, and Honda. The Pan America 1250 Special remains a milestone, proof that the company can evolve beyond chrome and asphalt, even if not everyone follows it off-road. It represents courage, innovation, and an honest attempt to speak a new language while remembering an old one. But courage doesn't always sell, and pride doesn't always adapt. On dealership floors today, it waits quietly, powerful, capable, and discounted. Its price lowered not for lack of performance, but because some legends ride better on the road than the ridge. Number 1. Harley-Davidson CVO Street Glide. Every brand has its crown jewel, the machine meant to define perfection. For Harley-Davidson, that jewel has long been the CVO Street Glide, the touring legend sculpted from decades of craftsmanship, muscle, and pride. It was designed to represent the very best Harley could build: power without compromise, comfort without apology, and styling that made no excuses. For years, it held that title without question. But now, even this icon finds itself sitting in showrooms longer than expected, its gleaming chrome and flawless paint competing with a number that stops riders cold: the price tag. It remains a masterpiece, yet in today's market, perfection comes at a cost that's proving too steep for even the most loyal hearts. The result is a touring machine built with precision and confidence. Throttle response is sharp, torque immediate, and the suspension glides like silk over stone. Every surface feels intentional, from heated grips to the 12.3-inch touchscreen loaded with navigation and sound. The Rockford Fosgate audio floods the wind with music. Layered paint shimmers under light. It's everything a Harley should be: commanding, comfortable, and born for endless miles. Dealers feel that shift every day. Rows of CVOS, once pre-sold months ahead, now linger behind ropes, pristine and untouched. If your bike made this list, tell me below. Did Harley lose its way, or is this just a reset? Hit subscribe for more deep dive breakdowns on the bikes that built America.